So today we are starting to explore Rainer Maria Rilke. Um, so if you all have the enlightened heart, we're going to be using texts from here. I want to mention Rilke wrote most of his poetry in German, some of it in French. So everything we're reading here is in translation. Um, and it's all translated by Stephen Mitchell, who's the editor of this anthology, and he's also a wonderful translator from a number of languages. And I've been told that people have had I think a guy who actually worked in a bookstore told me this once, that they had a few different translations into English of the Duino elegies, which is kind of Rilke's most monumental work, and that people who came in and bought other translations other than Stephen Mitchell's would often come back disappointed to return the book. So Mitchell, in addition to being a terrific translator, he's a spiritual practitioner himself. So he understands the spiritual core of these poems. So in case you pursue reading any more Rilke, you want to be sure to get Stephen Mitchell's translations. Okay. So just a little bit of background. Rilke, born in 1875, died in about the age of 50, 51, so mid-1920s. So right in that crazy transitional time, he was born in Prague, with Austrian. Prague has changed hands a couple of times, so he's Austrian, and so this is the time of all the political turmoil leading up to the Great War. This is the time of artistic changes. You're getting the Impressionists. You're getting the old classical forms of art, of painting, of music, of writing. Everything being challenged. He came from this kind of unhappy family. He was the only child. They put him in a military academy for several years where he was miserable. He's kind of the epitome of the sensitive young poet, a portrait of the artist as a young man, and just being thrown into situations that were sometimes overwhelming. Later in his life, when the war broke out, he was conscripted. He was forced into the army, which was really the wrong place for him, and it was quite traumatic. Finally, he got some friends. He seemed to have some friends in high places, and they exerted some pressure, got him out of there, but damage was done. He had bad health, which is why he died early. He struggled with that. So there was a lot of struggle, a lot of difficulty, a lot of Sturm und Drang, a lot of storm and stress in his life, and in a way that really adds, you could say, depth to what we'll be seeing in the poetry. He was not able to, like some of us were able to come to our spirituality the easy way, or just kind of, middle-class white kids from the suburbs who went, oh, meditation, that sounds cool. Whereas for him, and as far as I've been able, I've not done a whole lot of reading about him, but as far as I've read, he did not have direct influence. There were not a lot of teachers available from, real teachers of the Eastern teachings. He did have some incredible encounters with artistic influences. He traveled a lot. He went to Russia. He met Tolstoy, hung out with Tolstoy. He got very interested in the work of the great contemporary at his time sculptor Rodin, whose work was very innovative. Wound up traveling to France, hanging out with Rodin, became his secretary for a while, wrote a big paper about him. A big important kind of formative influence in his life was a series of brilliant artistic women who were sculptors and painters and this and that, with whom he had affairs, and just deep affairs of the kind of mind and soul as well as the body. So the poems that come out of that, with the when as we get to their kind of, well, you'll see, starting with the first one, we're going to be on page 131 here. And boy, he goes right to for the jugular, Buddha in glory, right? And again, as far as I know, he did not have any direct Buddhist teachers. He had to find his way to this stuff. So let me read this. Buddha in glory. Center of all centers, core of cores, almond self-enclosed and growing sweet, all this universe to the furthest stars and beyond them is your flesh, your fruit. Now you feel how nothing clings to you. Your vast shell reaches into endless space, and there the rich, thick fluids rise and flow. Illuminated in your infinite peace, a billion stars go spinning through the night, blazing high above your head. But in you is the presence that will be when all the stars are dead. Oh, man. Okay. You hearing that? Yeah. By the way, you're all empowered to unmute now, so in case you, at any point we have comments or questions, you can just jump in. So, Buddha in glory. And the thing we have to say over and over again, Buddha is not a who. It's not a guy that lived 2,500 years ago. I mean, there was a guy that lived 2,500 years ago, the Shakyamuni, who, we sometimes refer to as the Buddha. And, obviously, just the epitome of the enlightened teacher. But Buddha means awakened one. And the idea is for us all to be Buddhas. I mean, we're all here, awakening to exactly what Rilke is describing here. He's describing enlightenment. Pretty remarkable for this, artist, poet guy just kicking around in the middle of all this chaos and a lot of difficulty and a lot of suffering and a lot of very intense searching, that he somehow found his way to this, to have enough experience of it, some kind of experiential encounter with it, enough to be able to describe it in this way. Because, man, you're not going to get a description like this just reading books. Right? So, it says Buddha in glory, but so we understand that this is all of us in glory. This is, Judy in glory and Yehudit in glory and Scott in glory. This is all of us. This is what we all are more and more coming to taste in our lives. Center of all centers, core of cores, almond, self-enclosed and growing sweet. What an interesting metaphor, right?
Yeah.
You know, the classically when you're going to write it, I have to say from the bit that I've read of a lot of the traditional Eastern poetry from in the Buddhist tradition and the Hindu tradition, a lot of it is in a it's like very accurate, we could say, teaching wise, but it's really kind of boring poetically because they got about half a dozen metaphors that they use over and over, the same damn figures of speech. They're very invested in tradition, so they just keep trotting out the same stuff. But to look around, to be experiencing that, and in within yourself, and look around, and go, what is like this, right? What is like this, and coming up with an almond. That's pretty crazy. Um, so, how is an almond like the experience of enlightenment? Right? Center of all centers, core of cores, almond, self-enclosed and growing sweet. Right? A couple of people joining us late. Hi, Chick, and I think Kat, you may be there somewhere. Chick, where if you happen to have this book, The Enlightened Heart, we're reading Buddha in Glory by Rilke on page 131, and if you don't have it, don't worry about it.
Thank you, Dean. Yeah, Bob just told me about it the other day, but I don't
Okay,
have it. So
cool. Okay, no problem. I'll be reading all this stuff aloud.
but you intrigued me with just the paragraph that you sent out on your email.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
Loved it.
Good. So welcome. Good to see your smiling
Good
face.
to see you too.
Um, tell me about this image of the almond as enlightenment. How are you? What are you getting from this?
Oh, yeah.
Could you read the poem again real quick? Just
The whole poem,
Kat and
yes.
Chick, yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, good. So it's called Buddha in Glory. Center of all centers, core of cores, almond, self-enclosed and growing sweet. All this universe to the furthest stars and beyond them is your flesh, your fruit. Now you feel how nothing clings to you. Your vast shell reaches into endless space, and there the rich, thick fluids rise and flow. Illuminated in your infinite peace, a billion stars go spinning through the night, blazing high above your head. But in you is the presence that will be when all the stars are dead. Oh, boy.
That's so beautiful.
Oh, my God. Kill me now. Yeah, it is so beautiful. So, those of you who've, been with me for a while, doing meditation sessions and these discussion sessions, one thing we talk about a lot is how, when you hear about, enlightenment, and this guy sat under a tree and became enlightened, or, this guy went into a cave, we tend to think of it as a sudden, dramatic thing. And in some cases, it happens that way. But those are the exceptions. The famous exception in the mid-20th century, Sri Ramana Maharshi, who was just a 16-year-old boy left home alone while the grown-ups had gone to a funeral, and he started thinking about death and getting obsessed and started having a panic attack, felt like he was dying, and instead of fighting it, he had the good sense to, okay, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. And he lay down on the floor in shavasana, right, corpse pose, and went, okay, let go of the body. Okay, let go of the senses. Okay, let go of the emotions. Okay, let go of the thoughts. And they let go of everything that we think of as us, but there was something left. And it was awareness. It was which after letting go of all the stuff that has boundaries, what was left was awareness, which is boundless. And boom, he, after a while he sat up and, oh, I'm not dead, I'm enlightened. Right? And then next day mom and dad are going, okay, time to go to school, time to go to algebra class. I said, no, I don't think so. And he ran away from home, moved to a cave in Tiruvannamalai in South India. Yav and I have been to that cave, by the way. We meditated in that cave. And then after a few years, they coaxed him down from the cave and built an ashram around him, and he sat in that ashram and taught for the rest of his life. So there are those examples, and it's nice because they're flashy. They get people's attention, but they're kind of misleading because for most of us, the process is much more like, the fruit or the nut growing slowly, incrementally within its shell, right? Growing on the tree, right? Growing as long as the center is there.
Self-enclosed.
Say it again. Yes,
This-
self-enclosed. Self-enclosed. And you know what? We're all self-enclosed. No matter
if we're
what's
conscious
going
of
on.
it,
Say it again.
if we're conscious of it
Yeah.
in our core,
Yeah.
we're self-enclosed. Otherwise, we're enclosed and just trying to take care of everything on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. And what becomes more clear as we go along is that we can take care of everything on the outside, yet still this being self-enclosed at the center of centers, at the core of cores.
Yeah.
Right? Because that center is there. That center is the essence. It's what we are. All this stuff out here is just what we do. At the center, and I'm pointing physically, but of course it's not physical. Right? We call it the heart, but it's the heart like, in the Latin languages, heart is always cor, corazon, cora, the core, the essence. It's not really the blood pump. It's not anything in the middle of the chest. It's the beingness, and then all this the expressive stuff is the doing, which expresses the beingness. And then sometimes, after enough of this gradual growing, sometimes there is a sudden an aha moment where finally, it's like the almond or the apple or whatever ripens on the tree until one day a little breeze comes along and it falls. Right. So sometimes there will be a moment when then it's the great line from the Hemingway novel where the one character says, "How did you go bankrupt?" And the other guy says, well, two ways. First, gradually, then suddenly.
Well, if you don't mind, I would love to share my quick experience, Dean.
Please.
Which is of that. I was going to say, I don't want to compare, my own experience with Ramana or even a Byron Katie or an Eckhart Tolle or these rare few that have had sudden and very dramatic. But there is for me, a definitive experience, which I've also tried to share now for years, because like you said, it was after decades of meditation practice. So there is, for those of us like yourself that do that for a very long time, there is this growth and there is this insight that goes on. But I will say for me, after decades, I knew that there was something being talked about. By the Eckhart Tolles, by the Byron Katie's, by the Ramanas, by the Buddhist sutras, actually, like the heart, that I was missing.
Right.
And there was a knowing of that there,
Right.
and a frustration along with all the benefits that I had gotten out of meditation.
Right.
And then while on a retreat with Adyashanti,
Mm-hmm.
he's a great storyteller, as I'm sure
Yes,
you
he
know.
is. Yes, he is.
And the way he spoke about this, I'll call our true nature,
Yeah.
just to
Mm-hmm.
call it something.
Mm-hmm.
Something started churning inside me. Where literally my mind was going, wait a second, I recognize what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
He was just talking simply about this part of us that doesn't change over time.
Mm-hmm.
And this part of you that feels the same, now when you're 50, for me, it was 50 something,
Mm-hmm.
you were 15 or whatever. And I'm like, well, wait a second, I recognize that.
Right.
And that night, in the middle of the night, I was deeply in a state of very deep frustration over having done this for a long time.
Right.
And knowing that I'm missing something. And I'll just say, so there is a spiritual awakening for me now. It's been a bunch of years since that. And so while there is this gradual thing, I just want to throw my 2 cents in there for the school of thought that there is this recognition, that it's realization.
Mm-hmm.
I would say necessary, but that might not be right, because William James and others said, can be, but where something is seen that was not seen before. And without that moment, I'm not sure I could ever have seen it, because I had read about it 1,000 times and talked about it. But then when you see yourself as consciousness, when you see yourself, like when that's seen, nothing is ever the same. That's something that clicks.
Yeah. And then you go, oh, that's what all those books were talking about.
Everything becomes crystal clear.
And
in that moment. And for me, I just want to say, because it wasn't like you described with Ramana. It wasn't this, the body disappeared or everything, disappeared. None of that happened.
Right.
There was just this thing. Oh, that's me.
Right.
That's the me.
Right. Yeah.
That I've always felt as the meanness of me.
Right.
It's that. It's not physical or anything else.
Yeah.
So there was this moment that it was. So I totally understand. I just want to say I totally understand that. It's gradual. I guess the setting up of the mind-body organism to, I guess, be able to have that. But then it isn't.
Right.
An instantaneous thing, that experience that is the really, really transformational moment. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Right. Absolutely. And I want to get back to Rilke in just a second here, but this is the essence of what he's talking about. And what I would say is that, from my perspective, as far as my own experience and my own understanding and my own observation dealing with other people's experience, is that there is no one way for it to happen, right? So, and I think you're absolutely right. As you say, there has to be this recognition. There is that what this awakening is this recognition, but it can happen gradually. Some people are, it's at a certain point you go, oh, when did I stop suffering? Oh, when did I stop being identified with this body, with this, at what point did it happen that everything, the functioning of the body and the mind and the speaking of the words and all that, at some point, apparently, I just gave my little red wagon one last push and it's been, just rolling on by itself. And then some people will have a very dramatic recognition. I mean, in my own case, I had a couple of very dramatic recognitions like that when I was a kid. When I was, I've written about this. I had the most clear when I was 12 years old, and then it became, but then it became, okay, now how do I get back there? How do I stabilize that? How do I, and what is that called? And then, then being introduced, unlike you, I had not, at that point, at the age of 12, I hadn't read any of those books, right? So it can happen in any way. So, Rilke.
Sure.
Is that Shakti?
I'm sorry?
Shakti.
Who's talking?
That's Louisa saying, is that Shakti?
Oh, Shakti.
Would that be similar?
Okay. Are you talking about having the flashy experience? Louisa, are you there? Okay, I'm not hearing.
Yes, I am. Sorry, I keep unmuting it. Yes, to having the experience. Isn't that Shakti? Or am I
not? The short answer, not necessarily. Okay, I want to get. Let's get back into the poem. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, here, let me. More important than which Sanskrit name we give to it is, you've been practicing this stuff for a while, Louisa, and I know you've had some taste, sometimes fainter, sometimes clearer, some taste of that which is not any stuff. It's not phenomenal. It's not happening. It doesn't come or go. It is that, as Chick said, that which is silent, that which has been the same every moment of your life has been that which experiences all of that. And it's the recognizing of that. And that's Buddha, that's waking up. All this universe to the furthest stars and beyond them is your flesh, your fruit, right? So there is this experience, this in as it's laid out in the poem, of growing, like this gradually growing fruit, which is self-enclosed, and yet it encloses the whole universe, right? And that really is getting back to, Judy, what you were saying before, the fact that we can still have that feeling of self-enclosed. I'm not going out of myself anymore. And yet I'm able to do everything, do all the interactions. It's because all the universe gets invited, so to speak, into our, living room of selfhood. It's all in here with us. There's nowhere we have. It's all just as our body, our voice, our mind, all that is the manifestation of that boundless beingness. So is all the other stuff, all the stars, all the other people, everything we have to interact with. The second stanza. Now you feel how nothing clings to you. Real simple. Okay. That, and again, whether you're getting it gradually or getting it suddenly, that's really central to awakening. That more and more it becomes like, all the stuff keeps happening. It still registers, but more and more it registers not like the line carved in the rock, but like the line drawn in the water. Nothing clings to you. Stuff still happens. One Lama I used to study with used to say, shit happens. And if you don't learn how to let go of it, you wind up covered in shit. But, you just keep practicing, keep more and more recognizing what you are, and that what you are is transcendental, is not in the field of phenomena. Nothing clings to you. And there Oh, your vast shell reaches into endless space. So we're still the almond. We're still keeping touch with that image, but it's not. The almond is boundless. All of space is within what we are. And there, the rich, thick fluids rise and flow. I love that. Because when we start talking about enlightenment in this way, it can often sound cold, abstract, dry. But all the juicy organic stuff of life, right? All the physicality, all the including eating, drinking, sexuality, if you're in a part of your life where that's going on, all the hugging your kids, and the music and the dance, all that. That's what I'm getting from the rich, thick fluids, right? None of that is excluded. None of that is excluded. The richness, we don't lose the richness of life. And there the rich, thick fluids rise and flow. Period. All right? Illuminated in your infinite peace, a billion stars go spinning through the night. Wow. Isn't that interesting? We look up at night, we look up at the heavens, we look, whatever's there, all the mysterious life in the bottoms of the sea, the forest, whatever the wonders are, right? Blazing high above your head, a billion stars go spinning through the night, blazing high above your head, but in you, right? Emphasis on in. But so we see all those wonders of the universe, and it's just so awe-inspiring. It's like, you hear this all the time. Oh, you look out, you see, and you read, you learn about, like our little 5-year-old grandson has gotten totally excited about learning about the universe and the galaxies and the black holes and how many trillions of stars there are, and the nebulas and the galaxies and the clusters and all that. And the thing that you hear people say when they look into that is, oh, it makes you feel so small. Right? Mm-hmm. But what does Rilke say? But in you is the presence that will be when all the stars are dead. Right? So that presence, that awareness, that beingness, that silence, which, as Chick pointed out, has been there in every moment of your life, because all the moments of your life happen in the field of change, in the field of time. But that presence, that being, that I, it's what you are. It's the very awareness. It's not distant from you. It's the very awareness that's hearing these words right now. Right? And that's whenever people come to that kind of moment that Chick was talking about, I say there does tend to be a forehead slapping moment. The Homer Simpson, it's this. It's this. It's this I that's been experiencing everything all along. How did I miss it? And that's like unanswerable. It's impossible that you could miss it. And yet somehow we do, until we don't. Right. And when it happens, it's the great quote from Richard Baker Roshi: enlightenment is an accident. Meditation just makes us accident prone. Right? So it happens when it happens. And we can use the word meditation. Say it again?
I said that's funny.
Yes, it is.
That's a great quote.
It is. I mean, to me, the miracle is that anyone remains unawakened. How the hell can we miss it? And yet we do. And as a result, all this, suffering, this tragically unnecessary suffering goes on. It's like we're all dancing around the big swimming pool, and the whole, dancing on banana peels. How have we not all fallen in by now? So, but the thing is, not only is that silence there that through our whole life because it's transcendental, beyond time, beyond space, beyond comings, beyond goings, but it's there beyond the coming and going of the universe. The beingness, the awareness, the I that you're experiencing right now is not only the same one as when you were a day old and the same one that will be on the day you die. It was the same when the dinosaurs were walking around. It will be the same, when the last star burns to a cinder. And that's in you right now. That's what's hearing these words right now.
I would add that part of the recognition and realization is that, this is what everybody is, and this is what every sentient being is.
Right.
Because it's the very nature of sentience.
Right.
As you said, Dean, to be aware, to be conscious.
Yeah.
Is the very nature of sentience.
Yeah. So it's it's how did I miss it? And then it's how are they all missing it? How are they all missing it? And the annals of awakening are full of stories of people sometimes when they first awakened getting very excited and running around going, look, it's right in front of you. Don't you see it? And people go, no, we don't. No, we don't. And then you're annoying, right?
Exactly.
I wanted to point out one little thing about the poetics, and then I want to go on to one more poem. Well, time is flying here. And again, this is the English translation. I don't read German, so I don't know how it is in the original. But I suspect that it may be the same. Notice that in the first two stanzas, this is just a nice thing. I just enjoy this thing as from the poetics point of view. The first stanza has what we call near rhyme, right? Sweet and fruit almost rhyme, right? The second line and the fourth line. Sweet and fruit don't quite rhyme, but they almost rhyme. The second stanza, space and peace, again is near rhyme. Don't quite rhyme, almost. Then the last stanza, head and dead, perfect rhyme. And what that does is helps bring the feeling of finality. That makes it definitive. That's the definitive statement. And this is part of the difference between poetry and prose, right? Is that poetry is not just about the meanings of the words, it's using the sounds of the words, the music of the words to bring out the meaning and deeper words. Even when, as most people won't notice things like that. I mean, I was an English teacher for a bunch of years, so, this is what I do. I look at that kind of stuff. But even if you don't consciously notice it, it still works on you. Mm-hmm. Right? Subliminally. It's like you watch a movie, you're not thinking about camera angles and lighting and the rhythm of the editing. I mean, Yaffa and I watch movies and we do think about that stuff because Yaffa's a filmmaker and, I was a film critic and all that. But even though for most people you're not thinking about those things, they still work on you. Right? So just wanted to point that out. Okay, let's look at one more short one. And what time is it? Okay. Let's go to page 147. So we're going from the first Rilke poem in this book to the last one. And I think we'll do this. Let me ask you this. Should we meet next Sunday, or for the Thanksgiving weekend, will people be distracted. Yeah, okay. No one's going anywhere. All right. Okay. Okay. So we'll meet on next Sunday. Okay. So we'll do more Rilke next Sunday. So
Good.
this last one, this is on Rilke wrote this and directed this to be his epitaph. Okay, so this in German is what's on his gravestone. Rose, oh pure contradiction, joy of being no one's sleep under so many lids. Okay, read it again. Rose. So here's our image, right? The first one, the central image was the almond. This one is the rose. Rose, oh, pure contradiction, joy of being no one's sleep under so many lids. Rose, oh, pure contradiction, joy of being no one's sleep under so many lids. Okay, now there's in the space of that short little poem, there's quite a bit there that can be puzzling. So what I always say is when there's stuff that's puzzling, see if there's anything you can get hold of that's not so puzzling. Is there any like little loose thread on the sweater that you can start to tug at? Let me ask you about this thing. So many lids. So many lids.
I think
What's
that's
that?
the one part that I could that I could maybe interpret it. I need so much help with the rest.
Yeah.
With your poetry is no one's sleep, always awake,
Yeah.
under everyone's lid. That it's again the idea that its nature is everyone's nature. It's kind of the thought I had. Everything's nature.
Right. Okay. Let's come back to that bit in a minute. I want to go to the one because there's
the very beginning.
Yeah, Judy.
The very beginning.
Yeah.
Rose is more than a flower, perhaps, and the action is a pure contradiction. Because if it's
nice.
dead, then
rose like resurrected. Yeah.
Yes.
Now it's an interesting question. Does anyone here speak German? Yeah. So does that pun work in German?
I grew up speaking German, but not so Hochdeutsch. Not Hochdeutsch. I don't know if I'll understand.
Okay. Do you know the word for rose, for the flower rose in German?
A rose. Same thing. Rose.
And does that pun work in German? Does that also have a sense of like, a rose resurrecting?
Read it again. This line. I don't have the book.
Yeah. We don't need to read it. With just the idea of rose, like in English, we have the one word arose, meaning like it lifted up.
Nine.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. So it's a happy coincidence that works for us in English, but it doesn't work in the original German. But I want to go straight to the end. So many lids. Okay, visualize the rose. Physically, what looks like eyelids on a rose?
Right, the petals.
The petals.
Mm-hmm.
The petals. Right? Petal, 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 petal. Right? All those petals like eyelids.
And all meeting in a center.
Right. And they're, it's in mentioned earlier in the Eastern writings, usually the favorite figure metaphor for enlightenment is the lotus flower, right, with all of its spreading petals. And in the West and you get this a lot in a lot of Christian poetry. It's the rose. Same idea. It's the multifarious, it's the blooming, the blossoming into the whole world, the whole universe, all of multiplicity, but all coming from that one center, which, that one essence, which is the infinite, which is God, which is yourself, which is this presence. But I think part of what we're seeing here is when you, and by the way, one of these long retreats I was on, I just remembered this in Switzerland or somewhere, one of these long retreats I was on, someone got up and told Maharishi about this experience they had where they experienced that the universe was an artichoke. It was a cosmic artichoke. You just keep pulling off the leaves. It all works. But what I'm seeing here is, once you pull off all of the petals, or you, let's say, peel back all of the petals to go, okay, what's in the middle here? There's nothing there. There's nothing there, right? There's no thing, right? The word nothing is no thing. No thing. There's not an eyeball under those lids, right? There's no little Jack in the Box that's going to, spring out or something. That the essence.
Dean, is that right?
Bob, hold on one second. Let me just get to the end of this sentence. It's in Buddhist terms, we would say it's shunya. It's shunya. It's empty. Shunyata. It's the emptiness, which is the Buddhist synonym for what in Hindu terms is Brahman, is the fullness. It's this same essence. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bob.
Yeah, no, I'm a little confused because my image of a rose is that when you pluck out all the petals, there is something that the petals are coming out from.
Oh.
As opposed to an onion, where I think when you peel the onion, there is nothing.
Right.
But in the rose, I'm thinking. And by the way, I've heard this as being a difference between Buddhism and Advaita about nothingness and the self.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
okay.
I don't know why you say that when you pull out all the petals, there's nothing there.
Because I'm ignorant.
Well, I mean, actually.
Yeah.
When I look at my roses out there, I mean, unlike some other flowers where there really is, like a daisy or something, where there really is a center, the rose actually does kind of, like, once it becomes full, it is kind of empty in the center. There's a bud that it came from.
Wait, do we have one here? Are your roses all gone? Is there still one out there on the bush? We need to settle this once and for all.
But go finish what you were saying, Dean, just because we only have 4 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What I was saying was, I don't know. I had this picture in my mind of what I thought what a rose was like, but I could be completely wrong.
Well, whether it is or isn't, we get to decide what the picture we want to use.
Yeah, we can do it.
If there's not much time left, could I ask you to interpret, in your understanding, Dean, just before that as well? Because I'm little lost, where he says no one's sleep. How does he say it?
Yes, yes, joy of being no one's sleep under so many lids. Okay.
So could you
okay, yeah. So one way we could look at and what you're not hearing, because you don't have the text in front of you, is that no one here is capitalized. No one with a capital N. So that gives us a little hint here. It doesn't mean nobody's sleeping. Everyone's sleeping. There's a bunch of people sleeping. So many lids. That could be all the lids, all the eyelids of all the sentient beings in the universe. Right? Right? The elephants, the mosquitoes, the humans, in the past, the present, the future. All of them, all those different kinds of lids that seem so diverse. We all have our own lives, our own paths that seem so different. Yet if we, step back, get a bigger picture, we're all part of the one rose, the one lotus, the one mandala of creation. And under every one of, and sleeping in the sense that, just as we were discussing before, all just waiting to awaken, right? Not just sleeping on a pillow at night, but just sleeping somehow not yet having recognized our true nature, right? So who or what is it that is asleep under all those lids? Is it Dean? Is it Chick? Is it Bob? Is it Judy? No, because when we awaken, what we find out is we're none of the above. We are no one. We are no one. We are.
I was curious if it could be interpreted as the joy of no one's sleep under all those lids is the joy that is awakeness, that is there in all of us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Whether physically asleep or not asleep.
Yeah.
Under so many lids. I was wondering.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the joy, in Sanskrit, it's ananda, which makes it clear that if we talk about, again, we're now mixing Advaita terms with Buddhist terms, but that's okay, that, when we talk about shunyata, emptiness, it's not, just like a black hole. It's, and we know this, and Chick, you know this experientially, it's joy. It's the happiness that you were looking for in all the wrong places before, because you were looking in places. It's the joy that's no place, that's every place. That is because it's the nature of the self itself. It's and so it doesn't belong, and it's not, there's no proprietor of it, right? When we, people say, so that's the nature of my consciousness. Well, yeah, but what do you mean my? Belonging, when we say my, it's like belonging to Dean or belonging to Bob. But the nature of waking up to that is finding out that Dean or that Bob, that's just a construct. That is a persona, which literally means mask, right? It's a useful thing. We need the mask to get through the day, to deal with things, right? We need, like, okay, here's a body, it's got arms and legs, there's a voice. So we need all that. That's the persona. But we're not it. We are whatever that is looking out through the eye holes of the mask. Okay? And that looks to me like this is what Rilke is calling capital N, no one here. Under so many lids. Boy, it's just, you get to start to get the sense of that. It's so generous. And by generous, I mean just so it's the real kind of the bodhisattva vision. This is actually exactly what you were saying before, Chick, that as you waken up to this in yourself, you see that this is what everyone is, but somehow they're not seeing it. It's underneath all those lids. They're asleep to it. Who is asleep to it? No one, aka everyone. So we got to wrap it up, guys. It's 6 o'clock, and we like to end this on time. So thanks for playing. We'll be back here same time next Sunday, and here we go.
Judy's right.
So Yafa says Judy's right. Yafa looked up some pictures of roses, and there's stuff in the middle.
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
I sit
All
corrected.
kinds of,
Don't you love being right?
Sure do.
Ooh, it's so sweet. It's so sweet.
Good.
I mean, I want to play with this. This is something to explore as like a way of like a path of awakening. What if, we always talk about throwing stuff into the fire? Okay, we throw the body into the fire. What if we throw being right into the fire? Right? Like, okay. If you're really serious about awakening, how about, we talk about asceticism, austerity, what they call in Sanskrit tapas. Like, I remember once years ago, I'm going to finish it after this because it's time to go. But once I decided years ago, I needed to do some tapas. I needed to in order to like strengthen my communion and my commitment to that which does not come and go, I had to give up something phenomenal to strengthen my commitment to the non-phenomenal. So I said, okay, well, what's my favorite thing in the phenomenal world? And my favorite thing at the time was sex. And I went, oh man, I'm not going to. That's unrealistic. So what's my second favorite thing? Ice cream. So I gave up eating ice cream for a year. I'm not sure.
I think I'd give up enlightenment first.
There you go.
Personally.
There you go. But you know what would be? I'm not sure how much giving up ice cream did for me. But I'm thinking if you could make the commitment to giving up being right, giving up indulging in that, right, and just okay. Let me for a year. Let me let everyone else be right. That would be the real bodhisattva path. That would be the path of the Christ, Let everyone else be right.
I'd like to throw in there a little heart sutra and say, center of flower and no center of flower.
There you go. There you go.
That's it.
Center is no other than no center. No center is no other than center.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Right on, brother. Okay. See you all. Thanks. Have fun.
Thank you. God bless.
Enjoy
Bye.
being.